I am Moses. Once I was a prince of Egypt, now I am the deliverer of my people. This is the story of how God's power shook the very foundations of the mightiest empire on earth. I had fled Egypt years ago, a prince turned fugitive, haunted by my past. But God spoke to me from a burning bush, commanding me to return and free my people. Let my people go. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, his pride unyielding. He sneered at our God and refused. And so it began. The Nile, lifeblood of Egypt, turned to blood. Fish died and the stench filled the air. Next came the frogs, countless amphibians swarming from the river, invading homes and palaces alike. The land was filled with their croaking, a cacophony that drove the Egyptians to madness. Lice tormented man and beast. Wild beasts ravaged the cities. A terrible pestilence struck the livestock. I saw fields littered with the carcasses of cattle and sheep. Boils erupted on the skin of the Egyptians, painful sores that left them crying out in agony. The skies darkened and hail rained down, mixed with fire. It was a storm like no other. Crops were destroyed, trees splintered. The land that was once lush now lay in ruins. What little remained was devoured by locusts. A great cloud of them descended, blocking out the sun. When they left, not a green thing remained in all of Egypt. Then came the darkness. Not the darkness of night, but a palpable blackness that could be felt. For 3 days, no one could see their hand before their face. The Egyptians were paralyzed with fear. The final plague was the most terrible, the death of the firstborn. That night a cry rose up from Egypt unlike any heard before or since. Every house was struck, from the palace to the poorest hovel. Go. In the morning, Pharaoh's will was finally broken. Go, he said, his voice hollow with grief. We fled, my people and I, carrying what little we could. Pharaoh's grief turned to rage. He summoned his army and pursued us to the very edge of the sea. There we stood, trapped between the waters and certain death. The people cried out in fear. I raised my staff, my heart pounding. Would God deliver us, or had we come this far only to perish? And then the sea parted. Walls of water rose on either side, revealing a path of dry land. We crossed, our feet barely touching the ground as we ran. I could hear Pharaoh's chariots behind us. As the last of us reached the other shore, I turned. The Egyptian army was in the midst of the sea. I stretched out my hand, and the waters came crashing down. The mighty army of Egypt was no more. In that moment, we were no longer slaves. We were free, chosen, delivered by the hand of God. Our journey was just beginning, but we had witnessed the power of the Almighty. Egypt lay in ruins behind us, a testament to the folly of defying God's will. Ahead lay the wilderness, and beyond that, the promised land. Our exodus had begun.